Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Card Bar Hobby Chats, episode number 2. I want to thank everyone that's previously watched the first episode, and hopefully, everyone's looking forward to future ones. Tonight's guest is just an incredible guy in our YouTube community, and I'm greatly appreciative of him and so honored to have him come on episode 2 of the Card Bar Hobby Chats. And just hopefully everyone will enjoy this evening and just hear the stories, enjoy the cards that are being shared, and we'll just have a good time. So I'll go ahead and bring my guest on.
Hey Ryan, how's it going?
Oh, good. How are you, Mike?
Enjoying the nice freezing weather. It's
That's
great.
right. That's right. Trying to stay warm, right?
Well, it's making me long for April when the springtime comes and Independence Ohio show gets here. So,
That's right. That's right. I wish I could go to that show, but you guys will have a great time. So,
oh yeah, it's going
uh,
to be a blast.
yeah,
I can't
yeah,
wait.
for sure. For sure. You guys will, like I said, you'll have a great time up there and see a lot of great cards and have a lot of great memories. So, Mike, I want to thank you for joining me tonight. This is awesome to have you on. You are my first guest on this series, the Card Bar Hobby Chat. So I appreciate you for the willingness and wanting to hop on.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I'm honored and privileged to be the first guest on your show, and I'm looking forward to future episodes.
Yes, definitely. Mike, like I said, I just appreciate you so much, especially after what you did a few weeks back. And some of you guys in the hobby, on YouTube, I've heard and saw what happened. But Mike drove all the way out from his home to a show that I set up in McPherson, Kansas, and just surprised me, and it just meant the world to me. So that's really what this is all about is just the friendships that we meet along the way and the memories we make and the cards that we brings us together. But just the lightness, the same just goal of collecting and like-mindedness is really what is fun. So like I said, I just appreciate you so much. So
Oh, that was such a good time. For the I've mentioned this on a lot of my videos, but it's true. Sometimes I think people take for granted where they live at and how convenient and easy it is to go to shows or to meet up with other YouTube content creators or just other guys in the community. Not everybody makes videos. A lot of people just are friends of ours. And I know it's hard for me. I know it's really hard for you to meet up with YouTube content creators because, I mean, other than you and me, I don't know how many there are from Kansas, period. And we're
yeah,
three
for
hours
sure.
apart. So it's,
Yeah.
and the other guys I know about that live in Missouri, the closest ones that I know of are 2 hours apart. So it's not real convenient just to hop in the car and say, hey, let's go drive a 30 minutes or an hour to a show and meet up with 10 other people and see some great vintage cards, some great pre-war cards. You just don't get that around here. So
Exactly. Yeah,
it was
for
an honor
sure.
to do that. It's not the most scenic of drive, but at least you're not in Western Kansas when there's nothing but flat nothingness. So
That's true. That's true. So, yeah, for sure. So, we'll go ahead and just get started here. I just want to kind of hear, when did you first start collecting?
So I've really technically first started collecting in 1982. And I've told this story before that when I was a toddler in 1974, for some reason, my parents, which I'm assuming is my mom, bought me a pack or a couple packs of 1974 tops. And I used to take those cards and look at them growing up. I never remember not having those cards. And so I had a little toy box with a little cubby hole and I'd stick them up in there. So they actually remain in somewhat decent shape. But the cards I remember, the two were a Jerry Kuzman because he threw left-handed, and I thought that looked funny. And then a Nolan Ryan, believe it or not. And then they bought me some stocking stuffers in 1980. Had a couple of packs of 80 tops baseball in there, and lo and behold, Nolan Ryan was in that pack too. But it was 1982 when just randomly some of my friends at school were talking about collecting baseball cards. And of course, I've been playing baseball cards. I already read a lot about baseball, so I loved the history of the game. And my Royals were really good back then, and
Yeah.
consistently good back then.
Yeah.
And George Brett was in his prime. It was a great fun team to watch. It was fun, exciting baseball on the AstroTurf. And I just heard them talking about it, went to one of their houses and they showed me their cards. And I was like, well, I've got like 40 cards at my house, So I asked, where do you get them at? And they said Woolworths. For those of you old enough to know what a Woolworth is, we had one in downtown Lawrence, Kansas. And so I had my mom drive me down there and I found where the baseball cards were and I opened up a couple packs and lo and behold, and the very first pack was an 82 Topps Nolan Ryan. And the second pack was an 82 Topps Highlights Nolan Ryan. Now, I'd seen Nolan Ryan pitch in Royal Stadium, which is what Kauffman Stadium used to be called, probably 78 or 79. My dad took me to a game and we had decent seats and you could hear him grunting. Long story short, all my friends collected somebody and I didn't have enough cards to even think about who I would start collecting. But since I knew Nolan Ryan, I had all these old Nolan Ryan cards. He became my guy. So now he's popular with a lot of collectors. That's, you see a lot of guys, they are Nolan Ryan collectors. I'm kind of an old school OG Nolan Ryan collector from 1982. And what's kind of depressing is I don't buy Nolan Ryan cards anymore. I don't collect. There's so much ultra modern stuff. It's overwhelming to me. That's not my thing. I did pick up one of those deals that Brett Richards just made. I don't know if you've seen that video. So I'm anxiously waiting to get that. And I will definitely show it off because he put a lot of work into that and it looks amazing. But so it was 1982 when I started. And then I learned very quickly that there is a local card shop. And then I became a fixture in that until I graduated from high school. I was there all the time. And my passion for collecting, it blew past my friends so fast that within a couple of months, collecting cards was just kind of a thing for them, but it was a passion for me. I'm a very passionate collector. I get very excited and enthusiastic about it. And so that's kind of how it started for me.
Awesome. Sounds great. Man, I just try to think about like you saw George Brett during his prime. Like when I got to watch George Brett, it was at the end of his career. So, like 92, 93 as he was getting ready to wind it down. But you got to see the World Series and all that. So
the 1980 season, I remember it like it was yesterday. George Brett was flirting with 400. Now he missed a lot of games that year. I think he played 116 games, but get this, he had 117 RBI. I mean, that's something you'd see back in the 20s and 30s, but you don't see until the steroid era. You didn't see guys get more RBIs than game played, but that they had. I mean, he was so popular. He blew up so big. I mean, he's already big around Kansas City, but the thing I remember is they had George Brett for president. They had like bumper stickers, and I still have some of those. I think laying around.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Man, everywhere you go, you see those George Brett for president bumper stickers.
For sure.
It was a fun time. Good time.
Yes, definitely. Well, that sounds awesome. Great. Very, very cool to hear that. We'll go into, what do you collect?
Well, that's always a good question because I used to have a stamp hat answer, which was I collect everything, which was true, especially when I was growing up. So I immediately, because of my love for history, my local card shop owner who kind of took me in as a mentor, I started collecting vintage from the very beginning. I was always fascinated with the guys who played, like you get the 1983 Jim Codd or Carl Yastrzemski or Willie Stargell or Pete Rose, and you flip it on the back and you see all these years of stats. And I was a stat geek from the beginning. So I always kind of started gravitating. Of course, I read books about Babe Ruth, Jackie Robinson. All my book reports were about Jackie Robinson when I was a kid growing up. Hank Aaron, Walter Johnson. Once I found that Walter Johnson was native from Kansas, native born, man, he became a guy that I really liked. Need to start collecting some of his cards because back then they were pricey and they're even more pricey now. But
for sure.
That's something I look forward to. So I've always liked the vintage, but then, I came up in the beginning of the junk wax. Now, a lot of people don't like that term. It's a term of endearment for me. I love that. If you say junk wax, doesn't everybody know what it is? I mean, what a better term than junk wax. It's not junk for us, maybe value-wise, but not sentimentally. I mean, it brings back a lot of good memories. So I collected more stuff than I knew what to do with. And so that's I collect a little bit of everything. I mainly now collect golden era.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And then there are some things like I don't really collect anything ultra modern, but I know people want to see some cards. So I like to collect ultra modern cards of relic players or relic cards of vintage players. So speaking of
Okay.
George Brett, here's a George Brett. This is a 2002 Leaf something or other. I don't even know what it is because I don't really care, but this is a duel of Brett and Schmidt.
Oh, great
Back in
card.
1980, there's World Series foes.
Let me see if I can. Did that do anything? No.
That just kind of shrunk us down, so I would just move it back.
Okay. Just move out of there.
Yeah, that should work.
Yeah.
So
There. Yeah, that was a nice card.
that's kind of a recent one. Then I like history guy and guys I've collected. Of course, Nolan Ryan with his old Astros jersey. I
Oh
like
yeah. That's great
that.
looking.
That's one that I love. And then I really like to get some more random ones. Here's Satchel Paige jersey
There
card.
you go. Very nice.
That's pretty cool. And then I got a Teddy Ball game.
Nice.
And then this one's cool just because it's so darn big, and that's Willie Mays. Willie Mays.
Oh, wow. Very nice.
And then, of course, I've got some of these, but how about a little bat piece of the Bambino?
There you go. Can't go wrong with that one. Yeah,
Of course,
that's cool.
Golden
That's
Era
cool.
has always been my kind of my wheelhouse, but I started getting into pre-war. And I bought pre-war before I ever became a YouTube content creator, but just not a lot.
Yeah.
But one reason the thing about pre-war is when I was growing up, all we saw was, some pictures and baseball cards, magazines, but it was mainly just the T206s, the standard qualities and things like that. And even as a kid, some of those were getting pricey. Now, when I really got back into collecting during COVID, some of those things just exploded in price, but there's bargains to find. So here's an exclusive for you. I've never shown this because I just got this.
Awesome.
Jason, Everyday Card Collector, and Aaron Value Vintage showed some of these before. And maybe somebody else did, but I've shown the 1938 Dixie Lid Premium Bob Feller, which is a piece of art. It just is beautiful. It's oversized, but you can get cards of great players, beautiful images for cheap price. This one I was eyeing in the back. Joe Rednick Collectors has this on his shelf, and I kept looking at that, and I finally looked it up myself, and I was like, man, someday I want to get one of those because I think this is just as good as picture. But I just got this one. That's Joe Medwick.
Oh, wow.
This is a 1937 Dixie Lid Premium. This was like $75.
That's awesome.
So,
wow.
I mean, this will beat a little 33 Gaudi any day.
Yeah,
just
for sure.
the image. I mean, it doesn't look like a cartoon. That is just stunning to me. I love these. I like them so much. Now, there's not many baseball players. So if you just want to do the baseball players, which I think I'm going to do because there's not many of them, it's a nice little set to get. And then they have other stuff like movie stars and things too. But man, I love those.
Yeah, those are great looking.
Next video whenever I record it, but I thought, I'll show it on this one for you.
Awesome. Sounds good. That was an awesome pick. Awesome pick up there. Very nice, Mike. All right. Well, do you have a favorite set or card?
Well, interestingly, when I went out to the show to meet you for the first time, I was looking around, walking around and stuff to let you do, because you were selling cards, so I didn't want to take up all your time. And remember, I found this Duke Snyder auto on the 84 Donruss, and the 84 Donruss. Now, I just did a video about that. Here's Nolan Ryan, my favorite guy. So of the junk wax sets, the 84 Donruss is my favorite. But when it comes to other sets, if you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have told you a different set than I'm going to show today, across from a set, because my mind changes. It's like, I'm not very rigid. I don't like, oh, this is all I do, or this is the only thing I like.
Sure.
So I'll show some cards from what right now, if you ask me today, this is my favorite set. If you ask me tomorrow, it could be something different, because this set's really grown on me. And it's the 1955 top set. So there's a Ken Boyer rookie.
Nice. Very nice.
And then you got to have a Teddy Ball game.
There you go. Yep, for sure.
And then you always, they're famous for the yellow backgrounds, but here's one that's not quite so yellow. There's Ernie Banks.
Yep, great looking one.
Card for Ernie.
Yep.
And then one of my favorite players to collect, and this is the last card in the set, actually. This is Duke Snyder.
Yep.
And the Dodger cards just pop with that yellow background with the blue hats.
Yep.
I love this card. I had a really beautiful one when I was little, and then I sold it when I used to set up as a dealer. But I had to get another one when I got back into collecting. That's the Killer Brew rookie, where he
Oh,
looks about like he's 15 years old.
yes.
Yes.
That's one I'd like to get. Yep.
And then
Yep, for
Hammer and Hank,
sure. Yep.
second year
Have that
Hammer and
one.
Hank
That's a
card.
good one. Yep.
Love
That's
that
a
one.
great looking card.
This one I'm not going to talk about because I've talked about it in just about every video I've ever done. But I love this card. This that Koufax. That's a one
Yeah.
because it has those two little pinholes. But man, that
Yeah.
card is so nice. And then last but not least, I talked about the Dodgers cards looking really good. Oh, I love this Jackie.
Yep.
I just
Agreed.
love that
Yep.
Jackie. So
That's great.
today, yeah, today 1955 tops. Tomorrow could be 1956 tops.
That's right.
After that, it
That's
could be
right.
67. I don't know. I love them all. But if I
Yeah.
had, if you had to have one
No, I
favorite,
agree. I mean, I think when I talked about it, when I did this, I did 1956 tops and I showed my
yeah,
Jackie just because, I think the 56 Jackie is a great card too.
yeah.
And then
I
the
just
56 Mickey Mantle, there's a lot of great in the
yeah.
56 too.
And
So,
now I was this close. I had them both sitting out there
yep.
because the 56 traditionally to me has been my favorite. But what's kind of swung me over are the images with that the yellow background, which some people
Yep.
I know don't like the yellow background. I used to not like it either. I thought it was just boring. But man, if
Hmm.
you look at it, it really pops. But the rookie cards. Now I
Yeah.
don't have a
For sure.
Clemente, or I would have shown the Clemente, but
Yeah.
you got the Kim Boyer, the Killebrew, the Koufax. I mean, just those three alone. I
Yeah.
love that.
Definitely. Definitely. I
Clemente
don't
just
have,
I
now
dig.
going back and thinking about how many 55s I have, I don't have a lot of 55s. I've got the Hank Aaron, I've got the Eddie Matthews.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I don't have a lot of 55s. I need to start working a little more on that.
Right. Right.
So,
Well, I'm definitely not
but
a set person because I just don't have the funds, and I just don't like the tediness
yeah,
of putting the set together. So a
yeah,
lot of the things that I do collect, and we might get into that, like projects and stuff, it may sound bad because when I say, well, I'm just going for the Hall of Famers, I'm doing that mainly for money.
yeah,
I want to
sure.
just get a bunch of
There's nothing
copies.
wrong with that at all. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong at all with that. So, yeah, I mean, I think we want our collections to have value to it, and otherwise, you're not going to buy cards just to buy cards. You also want a little bit of value when,
And
at
I
least
never,
in my opinion,
yeah,
of
no,
it.
I'm one of those weird guys who I don't care about the value once I get a card, but I do
Yeah,
when I'm
same here.
But
Yeah,
when it comes
yeah.
to sets, even when I was a kid, I always took the semi-stars and the stars out of the packs and put them in binders and just put the
Hmm.
rest of them in a box. I never ever once put like a set together.
Yeah,
It was just too tedious for me. It
yeah.
wasn't what I was into. Now that being said, I collect a lot of cards of guys that are not Hall of Famers. Some of my favorite guys to collect are not
Hmm.
Hall of Famers, and you'll like this one because this is a Royals uniform of Vada Pinson.
Yes, definitely. Very
So
nice.
he's not a Hall of Famer. He's in my Hall of Fame. So
Yep,
I
good
collect
player.
him,
Very good player. Yep.
and I like to collect guys that have interesting stories. And I actually did a video about this guy. This is Frank Wildfire Schulte. It's just a T205.
Very cool.
And what's special about this one is when I was a kid, I was a baseball history freak. I just read baseball so much, and the local radio station. And I did a video about this really early on, and they had a softball report, and it was sponsored by Minsky's Pizza, which is a local pizza
Yep.
place here in Kansas City that's pretty popular. And they had a baseball trivia question at the end of the softball report. And I was, 12, 13 years old. Well, I started winning every day. And they started getting mad because I was winning every day. So I'd win, I'd ride on my bicycle over, get my Minsky's Pizza coupons. And it got to the point where, well, they did a question: who was the first player in the 20th century to hit 20 home runs in a season? Well, I started getting kind of like a smart ass, and I would just sit back and wait for people to answer stupid questions. And somebody called in and said Babe Ruth. And they're like, hey, congratulations, you won. Somebody beat Mike before he answered. I'm like, I'm sitting there listening on the radio. I'm like, they're wrong. It wasn't not Babe Ruth. So I
Yeah.
called them up, being the smart ass teenager that I am. I'm like, it was actually Frank Wildfire Schulte of the Cubs. He hit 21. I think it was like 1911.
Wow.
And they're like, no, that's not what our reference book says. I'm like, no, you're wrong. Well, they went on the next day, and sure enough, they went on their air and said, well, yeah, Mike was right. We were wrong. It was Mike. They said they gave the other people the prize, but they
Uh-huh.
let me get the prize too, which I ate so much pizza that with my friends. But when I went to get the ticket, the little gift card for winning this one, the receptionist said, well, there's been a decision. The management of Minsky's is upset that you keep winning every day, and people are calling in complaining that you win every day, so you're banned. You can't participate anymore. And I'm like, what? So I started calling my sisters with the answers, and she'd call and win. I started calling all my buddies, different ones every day. We ate so much pizza for like the next 6 months. I think that's probably why half of us have diabetes now. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Yeah, I got banned as a teenager because I knew my baseball trivia.
Hey, that's all right. Nothing wrong with that. So
Great memories. Great memories.
yeah, that's right. That's right for sure. So, well, those were some great looking cards there. What is your ultimate Grail card?
Well, that's another thing that's changed so much. So if you ask me
Which
what kind of like the one that's probably my all-time, because it's been a card I've wanted the longest, is a one that I know that you picked up last year, which is the T206 Walter
Yep.
Johnson portrait.
Yep.
So obviously when I was a kid, I was a Nolan Ryan fan. You started hearing about Walter Johnson. I knew he was from Kansas.
Yep.
But back then, I mean, you knew the only ones I really were aware of was the T205 and the T206. And I like the T205 as well.
Yeah.
And of course, there's different variations of the T206. But to me, the best one's the portrait. I mean, that's
Yep.
just iconic card for me. It's not. And when I say a Grail card, it's got to be one that I know I could obtain
Sure.
somehow. And it would be hard to do that. But that is probably my number one that I want. Another one that I would love to have is 1929 Cashin Babe Ruth,
Yeah.
just because
Yeah.
that one I think I can get at some
Yeah.
point relatively soon. Also, the 49 Bowman Jackson or Jackie Robinson. I will never be able to get a Leaf.
Yeah.
But I love the image on the 49 Bowman because he looks so happy. I mean, he has that great smile on his face. That was his MVP year. So I love that one.
Yeah.
And
I
then
like the
another one that's
back
really
on that one too. I think
Yeah.
the background's just great.
Yeah. So those are the ones that, I mean, I could put 50 of them on there, but my
Sure.
number one has got to be the portrait Johnson. That's my
Yeah, for sure.
because
Yeah.
it's
Well,
been
that's
for so long. 40.
no,
40
I agree. It's a fantastic, iconic card of that set. And I mean, when you think of Walter Johnson, you think of that card. At least I do, anyway.
And
Like you said, the T205 is nice, but I think of that portrait card when I think of his cards.
that's the one I think most people think of. And
Yeah.
of course, and as you know well, because you collect cards of guys from Kansas, which I don't, but I've started to pick up a few basically because of you, actually, and some other guys who collected cards from the players born in their state.
Sure.
I don't have to tell you, it's pretty dry. I mean,
It
for Hall of
is.
Famers, we've got two. We've got
Yeah.
Walter Johnson, and then you got to drop all the way down to Joe Tinker. And then the next best players, I mean, I don't know what you think. There's Bob Horner, Johnny Damon, George
Yeah.
Graham.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets tougher to figure that out for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But
You watch the videos that Drew had, the video responses to Drew clean
Yeah.
shots. And it just made you want to cry at some of the
yeah,
great
some
players that were,
states
like,
have
honorable mention.
some states have an incredible amount of
Oh,
Hall of
yeah.
Famers.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, for sure. So no, it's yeah, that Walter Johnson card is that's a card that I will always have. I will never sell it. Now that's deciding on whatever happens with my wife, if she wants to end up doing it, or preferably I'd like to have it go down to my kids, but
Right.
but we'll see at that point. So
Well, if
but-
they don't want it, I know a guy, in case he doesn't get one, that might be interested. I'm hoping to get that one in a couple months, but I'm kind of thinking about. I'm leaving my options open.
Well, yeah. Well, I tell you what, whatever you get, I'll celebrate. So if you are able to get one of those, I'll celebrate it with you. So
the one thing we've talked about this is if I get one, of course, I'm getting that painting, that parallax painting by Scott Reindeer Studios. You and I have talked about taking our Johnson stuff to his birthplace
Yeah, we just need to go in anyway.
Taking some pictures
So
there. So
yeah,
that
we'll
would
just go. We'll just go no matter what you pick up. So what
yeah.
you already got that painting coming.
Yeah, I already
So
got the painting.
yeah,
That'll be awesome.
so we can go with that. So that works too. So but no, that painting's cool that you got. So that'll
I'm
be very
excited to
nice.
get that one. Definitely excited
Yeah,
to get that one.
yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, what is a great hobby memory of yours?
Well, I wanted to I've talked about some different things, but I wanted to do something I've not really talked about a lot before, just because it is such a funny memory and fun memory. So I think I was 17 the first time I set up at a show as a dealer, and it was a show put on. It was the Holiday Inn in Lawrence, Kansas, and it was put on by the local card shop owner that was kind of my mentor. And I was young. One of my friends said, "Hey, you should do that. You got a lot of cards." I didn't. I started doing shows with friends as I got a little older, but this one was just, I think, solo with me. But I was trying to figure out how many tables I needed. Now, for those of you my age, you'll remember there wasn't graded cards back then. Top loaders were really just coming around in our area. A lot of cards were in binders. The 9 sleeve plastic
Mm-hmm.
pages binders. So of course I had a guy build, and this was like an 80-year-old man who was a friend of my dad's that my dad knew when he was little, who was a woodworker, and he made me 2 display cases, which I still have. I mean, they're
Very nice.
that awesome. And so I used those 2, but then the rest I think I got 2 tables. Well, yeah, I know I got 2 tables. So there was 4 feet of it with the display cases. The rest of it was all binders. I had so much junk wax from that period, and even some cards from the 60s and 70s in those sleeves. But what I did was I got a tape measure, and I was measuring out how much space I needed. It's like, well, I'm going to need more than 1 table, so I'm going to need 2.
Yeah.
And it was fun because it's kind of like you see in Pokemon, where you see a bunch of the cards out there in binders and stuff. But
Sure.
just imagine that, that much junk wax, because that's what there was back there. And then the cards in the display cases, you'd get a rookie card back then, like a Wade Boggs 83 Donruss, and it was a couple bucks. So you could buy a ton of them. So those old display cases, if you see them at shows, a lot of times you'll see they're like that thick. It's because we had so many of one card, we just stack them all on top of each other, stick them out there. And then if somebody wanted to look at them, they'd take the whole stack and they'd look through to find the ones that met their eye appeal. Mainly back then it was corners rather than centerness.
Yeah.
And so it was just funny. You just see piles of the same card and all these display cases, the better cards that, those $2 cards, too good to put into a binder. It was just a different time, but it's such a great memory. I was so nervous, excited. I didn't have enough change. My parents had to go to the bank to get some change because people were like getting $2 worth of card with a 20. And I was like, oh shit. I was running out of money almost immediately. It was a good time.
It's interesting that you say that, because I remember going into card shops when I was, when I was getting started, and I remember card shops would also put the same card in piles too, in their display cases, and that was just kind of the way that. Yeah, I mean, basically, if you were interested in that card, you asked them to take the pile out, and yet, like you said, you just find the best looking one that you wanted. So, yep, for sure.
I remember cards like Will Clark. I had a ton of 87 tops Will Clark, and I still have a bunch of them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I literally had that many Will Clarks.
Yeah.
87 tops, or David Justice when he blew up for the Braves.
Yeah.
It's like that was the card. We used to go around to card shows just buying those and then taking them to our card shows and, adding 50 cents to them or something just to try to make a little profit as.
Sure. Definitely.
Good memories.
Definitely. Great memory. Great memory there. All right. What is one card that you would never sell from your collection?
Well, that one is easy for me. It is this one that I've talked about. It's the 1961 Topps Roberto Clemente.
Awesome.
Now, I am not a big Clemente fan. I think he's great, but I feel bad for Frank Robinson, who I think was a better player. And Frank Robinson is way below Clemente in terms of popularity.
Sure.
But that card is special because the video, and I've talked about this before, my dad, who did not like that I collected, he found a paper sack. Actually, it was just like one of these, and it was filled up to about here with 61 tops and some 62s in just beautiful shape. I've sold a bunch of them over the years. I still have a bunch of them, but this one was the very first one. When he handed me a little stack, he pulled it out of his little, I call it the cigarette pocket on his shirt. He pulled out a little stack of them, and this was the very first one that I saw.
Wow.
He didn't put it there on purpose. I'm sure he might have known who he was, but he didn't know anything
Sure.
about cards. But because this was something that my dad got for me, and he never bought me any cards before or after this, and he bought that whole sack for 25 cents for the whole sack. So
it's unreal. That's crazy.
That I have other players who are my favorites.
Sure.
This one, if I had to sell everything but one, it definitely would be for this one.
Yeah.
For that
well, and I tell you what, that 61, that's a nice Clemente card in general, I think. Yeah. It's one of his nicer ones, I think.
Yeah. So, and like I said, the conditions were great. A lot of them that I've sent off got 6, 7s, and 8s from that. And this little old lady just had them sitting on a table at a garage sale.
It's crazy.
And, my dad almost didn't buy them because he just did not believe, and he hated that I had cards. He was always trying to get me to sell them. Yeah. But for that one day, thank you, Dad. He bought me those cards, and
for sure.
That's one of my favorite memories, not only of collecting, but of my dad.
Wow.
Just it was special. I'll put it that way.
That's a great story, Mike. Wow. Very nice to hear you just explain that, and especially the history of you and your father, and then him just being able to, just a little bit, share a little bit of what you like and the passion, and to be able to bring something home. And that, I can see why that's something that you would never let that one go. So
and
that's a great one.
When I was out there, I got to meet your dad, which was great.
Yes, for sure.
Because, I've seen Greg Miller, Midlife Sports Cards.
Bring for sure.
On, talk about his dad. Around here, Jason with Little Finley. It's awesome to see them collect. I know Ross and his son Tate are kind of getting into cards. Joe Redneck Collector and Finn. I've sent both of them cards, just because I like to encourage that in there. But
exactly,
I can't relate to that. I have a son that doesn't collect anything, and I don't really have a relationship with him. And even when he was little grown up, he played baseball. He just didn't really have an interest in collecting.
Sure.
His mom and I are divorced, and she was with her a lot more, and he just never got into that, which is fine. But for those people who have those great relationships, like with you and your dad, I absolutely love seeing that, because it fascinates me, because I never had that. And, I think it's special. So for all of you out there who do have those relationships with, whether it's your dad or mom or siblings or whoever, children, cherish that, because not all of us had that.
Yeah, it's incredible. My mom is just right there, right along with my dad. They both got me into it. So, we would go, like I said, we'd go on weekend card show trips and card shops, and I remember all the mall card shows, back when I was growing up, and we would hit those up. And so, like, I grew up in a small town up on the Nebraska border. And we were only like 72 miles from Lincoln, Nebraska. And so they had card shops up there, and they would always have card shows, and we'd go on like Saturdays, kind of make a day trip out of it, and kind of, see what the card shops had, and just enjoy, that was our bonding time, as I was growing up. So we do that on the weekend. So, but so and to this day, they're still, as you see my dad, he's right there with me. So, and then my mom would be right there too, but she's usually watching the grandchildren. So, but it's like you say, it's special to have them, and still interested, and it's something that I want to pass down to my kids. Right. And, it's made me really want to pass it down to my daughter and my 2 boys. And, my daughter's 4 and my boys are 2. And so my daughter's just kind of getting into it. We actually, Grandma and Grandpa bought her some Topps Chrome Disney over Christmas, and so we opened some of that up, and we put it in a binder, and she had a good time at it. So
that's so awesome. That's so cool.
So she's got her first binder, and she's got Topps Chrome Disney in it. So
nice.
But so getting her started. So, well, we'll go on to what hobby projects are you working on?
Well, the biggest one that I am working on that I'm failing on is saving money for independence. But
Well,
there
I
are some
mean,
projects. Yeah, there's some projects that I want to work on. I 1964 Topps Giants is
yeah,
a
those are
set that
great.
I think they're cheap, they're reasonable, and great images. I don't
Yep.
have very many, and here's another one I haven't shown yet. Trevor from Blue Collar Cards knows that I'm collecting the Hall of Famers from that set, and I still don't have very many. But he has sent me some cards, and this is one of the ones that he sent me.
Oh,
I'm sure everybody
nice.
knows. So Tony
Yes.
Oliva, man,
Yes.
if
Very
he didn't have
nice.
knee troubles, I mean, he would be one of the best ever. He was that darn good. He's just an amazing player. And
Yep.
then the other thing, I've always had a fascination from the time I was a little kid with the Kellogg's 3D cards. And, I remember the bright yellow ones and then, the smaller blue ones. But when I found the very first set, the 1970 Kellogg set, I just thought that was the best. I like the 70 and the 71. So last year I made a commitment to myself because I want to have a project that wouldn't break the bank. So I wanted to put together the 1970 Kellogg's football cards, just the Hall of Famers, and the 1970 baseball 3D, and just the 1970 1970,
Yep.
not the whole 70s. Although once I get 1970 done, I may move on to the next year. But
Sure.
I've done the football. I've got all the football except for OJ Simpson, and I'm choosing not to include him
Yeah.
for many reasons. But
Sure.
I love the baseball just as much. So I just brought a few down. Let's start with these are ones that will probably show up well. Here's Johnny Bench. So this
Nice.
Johnny Bench, I recently got from a guy. I did a sale of cards on YouTube, just a video, and a guy bought a card and he sent me the Johnny Bench. He just sent it to me. He
Wow.
asked if I had that one, and my gosh, I forgot the other one that he sent me, but he sent me another one. Now I can't think off my head, but the bench was one of them. I said, "Well, how
Uh-huh.
much do you want for him?" And he goes, "They're already on the way." So I was like, "Wow." So I mean, that's a beautiful card,
It's a great card. Yeah.
and they're very hard to find in the condition that I want them in.
Yeah.
All of mine that I have, except for one I had bought that was graded, they're all ungraded because I don't know if I want to do that because a
Yeah.
lot of these cards aren't worth that much. There's the Bob Gibson.
Yeah.
Again,
Nice.
just love the images on these. They're
Yep.
just really, if you get one
Great
in
looking.
good condition, they look great. There's a killer, another guy I love to collect, Harmon Killebrew.
Yes.
And then the big card, in my opinion, from the set is the guy I just showed a card of, the Clemente. This is just like the hot card that people want to get out of that set.
That's
And
that's the one that I have out of that set.
love that card.
Yep.
So
I agree. That's a
those
great
are
card.
those are definitely projects that I'm working on.
Great project.
Give me something
Great.
to do if I get the urge. But I'll tell you what, around here in Kansas, I don't see those. I mean,
Yeah.
most of the cars I've got online, I bought a lot through Greg Morris because they're pricey, but
Sure.
the few when I started getting them, the condition was what they said they were going to be. I
Yeah.
found that's not the case really for a lot of cars. I think they've slipped a little bit, saying what the card grades are for the ungraded, or not the grades, but the condition. I think they slipped a little bit.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
3D
Those are
ones, man, you look
those.
online and they're messed up a lot of the times, but these have been
I,
great.
I was gonna say a lot of them don't they crack easily?
They crack really
Yeah.
easily, and that's
Yeah.
another reason I don't know if you get them in case and you get them slabbed,
Over
if
time, will they crack?
will they crack, and then you just
Yeah.
waste money. So I
Yeah.
like, the value is not a big thing for me. What I would love to do is the big thing now that I have not participated in, but I collected binders as a kid. I still have all of my original binders just
Uh-huh.
in shelves, and that's where I got those '84 Donruss that I showed. I just pulled them right out of there.
Yeah.
But they have the top loader binders now. I'm going to get one for my
Yeah.
Kellogg's. So yeah, that's really if you're talking about projects that I'm working on, other than saving money or trying to, it's just little things like that. And of course, collecting Veda Pinson, I always am on the lookout for stuff I don't have. And I'm telling
Sure.
you, I'm getting to the point where it's hard for me to find stuff I don't have, except for some of the cons cards, some of the O-Pee-Chees, which I didn't haven't
Yeah.
gotten yet. Or there might be one or two Venezuelans because I did pick up another one in my attempt and failing to save money. I recently picked up have, but I'm going to show that pretty soon.
Well, that'll be exciting. Looking forward to seeing that one.
Yeah. One of these
All
days,
right.
now that I know that there's other Veda Pinson, I think we're going to get some guys together that collect them and just show.
Yeah.
It'll be of no interest to anybody but guys who like Veda Pinson. But
Hey,
we're going to
that's
do
all
it
right.
anyway. Yeah,
That's all right. That's right. You guys will enjoy doing that. So
It'll be
definitely. And we'll move on to my last question, what is your favorite thing about the hobby?
Without
I know that there's a lot of great things,
there's
and there's a lot of
so
things you
many
could
great
say, but your
to me
favorite?
to me, the thing that is my favorite more than anything, I think I proved it by driving out to Senia, is the
Yep.
community. It's the
Yep.
guys and the girls who are in the community because people laugh when I say this. I could buy any card that I have sitting on the toilet, on my
Yeah.
phone, on eBay,
Exactly.
or
Yeah.
on an auction. And that's how I collected. And a lot of you have collected for years. I mean, like I mentioned, I blew past my friends in terms of interest for the hobby. And by the time we were in high school, I bought most of their cards because they had no interest in cards anymore. And when I
Hmm.
was an adult, the few friends that I had as a young adult that I collected with, it was pure modern for them, where I liked
Yeah.
the vintage. I stopped really buying anything modern. Like 92, I think was the last year I really, except for, I buy random cards, lots of cards of KU Jayhawk players.
Yeah.
But it was basically vintage, sporadically for the next 20 plus years, 30 plus years, I guess, until COVID hit. And then, um, things changed. But to me, it's the community.
Yeah.
We are so fortunate that there's technology, that there's YouTube. I mean, look where you and I live.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for,
Exactly.
if it wasn't for technology, we would still be collecting alone.
Yeah.
I've got to have not just hobby friends, but guys I know are going to be friends with me for the rest of my life.
Yep.
And,
Agreed.
just to, I drove 5+ hours to meet up with Rusty Vintage Cards. And I picked up a beautiful St.
Oh,
Louis
nice. Great
stained nickel
card.
down there. And then another card I got down there at that show down where Rusty's at in Oklahoma City was I had sold my 61 Topps mantle that I had from my dad that he bought me. So I bought one down there. And then Ross Loves Cards, who I mentioned, he made the great suggestion. And I did a video on this. He goes, on your way back to Kansas from Oklahoma, go to Mickey Mantle's boyhood home where he
Yep.
learned how to switch hit. So I didn't know I was going to buy this card down there. I just got it for a great price. It centered really well. So I took a card on purpose because I knew I was going to go by the house. And
Yep.
that's the very first mantle I ever had, which I think is a lot of people's first mantle.
Yes,
But
sir.
what was so surreal is I took these cards and the tin barn was there where he learned to switch hit. And I was taking videos of the house and I was standing up there, but I set these cards on a little cinder block that was inside that tin barn. And I put these mantles and took some pictures. And it was just so cool. I'm like, these cards touched the tin barn where Mickey Mantle learned how to switch hit. I mean, how many Mantle fans would have never done that? They
Exactly.
live on the East Coast. They're never going to go to Commerce,
No.
Oklahoma. So
No.
that's just a really cool thing to do. And then Ross Loves Cards. I got to mention him again because he's become a close friend. I'm going to room with him in Independence. But we went to a show in St. Louis, and this is the thing about the community. There's so many just great guys, and they become friends. But we did quirky things. So Ross and I bundled together. He got a 1951 Larry Doby Bowman, and then I got the Campy. But we did this in a bundle with Tim Payne to try to get the price a little better.
Right.
But I mean, before the YouTube community and getting to know people, I never would have even dreamt of doing something like that. But you meet people, you learn about them, you talk more about than just cards. You start talking about life. I do, as you know, a lot of just online chats that aren't recorded. I probably do a couple a week. I've got some new people on there that I had not chatted with before, and we just had a blast. And it's something I will never want to stop doing because it's free. And you get to talk to people from California to Maine to Florida to Washington, here in the Midwest, just anywhere and everywhere. And it's special.
I agree.
We should not take it for granted. And so my favorite thing about the hobby is the community. That's what I'm most excited about to go to Independence, is just to meet all the people that I've been watching for years, because I've met relatively few, but now I get to meet so many of them. And so I love this community. It's changed my life for the better. I've never been happier, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
No, I agree. It really makes you, I think it makes you enjoy collecting more. Being able to hop on there and talk with like-minded people that, collect the same, not always the same, I guess, but have similar likenesses and is able to just, appreciate what you add to your collection. They understand what we're trying to bring into our collections. And because not always is I can talk to my wife about my cards, but she's not. She's interested for a little bit, and then that's it. And then
Right.
she's like, enough's enough. And so it gives another avenue of us to be able to just share our enjoyment, and that's really great, I think. And as you stated, it doesn't get any better than that. Is when you can share that excitement and that passion with other great guys in our community, and just just enjoy it. That's really what it's all about, is just enjoying it all together with everyone. And the cards is what brings us together, but it's really like we say, that's the people and the connections that we make. So
I think appreciation is a great way to put it. And, I actually did a video about this. I had so much fun meeting up with guys like like Chris from Missouri, Billy Ballgame, Joe Redneck Collector, meeting up with those guys at some shows in Missouri. The one I met some guys in St. Louis, meeting Rusty Vintage Cards, going out and meeting you. But I made a decision that I was so frustrated with all the stuff buying online and the close calls and the damaged stuff and stuff not getting here, that I made a conscious decision, because I've had so much fun collecting cards in person with my hobby buddies, that I just completely decided I'm not buying any big cards online.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't done auction houses, and that might be something a little bit different, but I'm talking about the big stuff on eBay. I'm just choosing not to do it. For one thing, it makes me more disciplined, so I don't just throw my money away. But I want to collect in person at shows as much as possible with my hobby buddies to get the big items. And that's just something I'm going to try it and see how it works. So far, so good. I mean, I've not been buying anything big at all.
Do you see yourself ever buying anything off an auction house? Because I don't. I like to look on there, but I don't actually see myself ever buying something off of there.
I've heard so many bad things about so many auctions that, plus a lot of stuff is outside my budget.
Yeah, true.
I can save up like I'm doing now for independence, but most of it's stuff that I would love to have. I love watching them. I started watching CIA auctions. And man, talk about having fun. If you guys have not watched the live auction as they're closing with all, a bunch
of people, fun. Yeah.
It's fun just to be in the chat. And when people get a card, we're all like cheering for them. It doesn't matter I'm not bidding on any cards, but I'm cheering for all the ones who do, win a card and say what they've won.
Yeah.
I could see, because, everything I know about CIA auctions is they're trustworthy. And that's a big thing for me, is trusting these, sellers that are online that you don't know. But then, I've heard a lot of bad things about certain auctions and the shill bidding stuff, but CIA to me, that would probably be the one that I signed up for it. So if I could do it if I wanted to, if I see something I just can't resist. But that's just not been my thing to do. But I'm not ever going to rule that out. But
it's hard to say. I mean, because we all can change on different ways on how to acquire cards, and certainly so.
But that's another part of the community. When you see other guys that and that you start to trust certain dealers and trust certain avenues to collect, that gives you a little bit more peace of mind to try it yourself. So.
For sure. I agree completely. All right, now we're going to do something a little fun here, and I think it'll be interesting. We'll do a little rapid fire here. So, pre-war or golden era?
Oh, see, I knew that was going to be a question. To me, I'm still a golden era guy, but I love the pre-war because I'm such a history buff. So I would say it's kind of split. I'd say I'm still more of a golden era, just because that's more in my budget. But man, if I can find, if I find stuff like this, I'll get that all day long,
Yeah. And I think there's avenues. There's, as there's some great YouTubers that have really started to kind of figure out pre-war and being able to get it on the budget. And I think more and more people are getting interested on that and starting to go down that road and picking different sets up, and because you can find some stuff that are decently priced.
And that's the thing is, when I was growing up, I didn't know about, like I mentioned earlier, I didn't know a lot about the different types of pre-war that's out there. I just knew the stuff that was in the thick price guides and the few different sets that they would show in those, baseball card magazines and stuff. So
Yeah.
you start watching stuff. And I was on a video recently with John Wade, Boggs fan, and Don Field of Dreams. And I've even done videos talking about my people who've influenced me. And sometimes influence gets a bad connotation, that word. So I just threw it out there. I'm like, maybe inspired is a better word.
Yeah,
So a lot of guys have
Yeah.
inspired me to look at things I never even knew existed when it came to pre-war. So, like, I say I still get more golden era just because it's a little bit more affordable, but I
Yeah.
really get a thrill out of getting stuff that's pre-war because there's such a variety that I didn't know existed. It's fun. It's a fun.
You can't go wrong with either, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're both great in their own ways. So, all right, T206 Wagner or 52 Tops Mantle?
Oh, that's easy for me. Be the Wagner, because even if I got one, I don't know if I would keep it. I probably would, just because it's a Wagner. But I could sell that Wagner and I could get a couple of 52 mantles or just one. All I would need is one. And I can get other stuff that I'd want. But yeah, I'd have to go. That was 52 mantle was iconic when I was little, but there was nothing like that Wagner. That was like, it seemed like there's only two of them in the whole world, which now we know that's not the case. But and Wagner, to me, if and I've said this before, if I was building a team from scratch that I had to have play for me for 10 years, and they would have to play in like every different era that has existed in baseball, I think the one player that I know without a doubt, with no hesitation, that could have played in the dead ball era, because he did, and could play in the today and be a superstar anywhere along the line, was Hannes Wagner. So
I agree.
I think, and he's such a good teammate. He was a winner.
Yep.
He would be my pick. So I would have to go with the Wagner.
All right. Junk wax era or ultra modern?
Junk wax. It's not junk to me, even though I actually love the name, because if you tell anybody that knows anything about cards, hey, that's from the junk wax era, they will start rattling through 87 tops, 86 Donners, 91, whatever.
Yep.
We all know when it is. So don't, a lot of people get worked up about terms. I've never really understood that.
Yeah.
Junk wax is a term of endearment because, man, that is my prime as a kid. That's when I got into this hobby, and that was just a heyday of being carefree and not having to worry about bills. So, junk wax.
My favorite 80 set would have to be 87 tops.
That's interesting that you say that, because that video I did with about 84 set being mine, because 84 was just a pivotal year, not just for collecting for me, but just in my life. But I asked people in the comments section, hey, what's your favorite set? And the majority by far, whether it was the comments they made or people who texted or emailed me, was 87 tops, which I always tell people, you could get 87 tops from your dentist office, from the post office, from a streetwalker, from a hot dog vending salesman. I mean, you could get the 87 tops. It was everywhere.
All over. Yeah.
But it's so endearing. I mean, it's just the design.
Yeah. The wood grain design. The wood grain design is just is great. And I like the George Brett card. That's, I've got one that's autographed, and it's really awesome.
There's so many good ones. They had the little gold rookie cups, like the Canseco one looks awesome.
Yes.
Bright green, fluorescent yellow, or whatever color, with a little rookie cup on there. Love that set.
Yep, I do too. All right. Card shows or eBay?
I like card shows, but I like to buy small. So my big stuff, which I just mentioned, card shows, 100%. For the smalls, in Kansas, some of the stuff that I like to get that are smalls, you're not going to find at a card show around here. So for the smalls, yes, definitely eBay. For the bigger stuff, the stuff that's more valuable or meaningful, it's card shows. Just because of the experience of picking that up with my buddies, having them look at the cards and holding it, and you get to help them get cards too. It's not just the cards that you get, it's the cards that you help other people get. So it's kind of 50-50. So it depends on what I'm looking for.
All right. And this last one, I'm kind of hoping for kind of biased answer on my end. We'll see what you think. The McPherson show or your Kansas City shows?
Well, this may shock a lot of people. For similar size shows, I'll tell you this, I really enjoyed that McPherson show.
What I like to hear.
I'm not a big ultramodern, definitely not a big TCG guy. If you go to any of the similar size shows around this part of the country, Northeast Kansas, it's almost at least 50 to 70% TCG Pokemon, a lot of ultra modern, and just a few tables of vintage. Now, when you get to some of the bigger ones, yeah, sure, you're going to see some more vintage guys, but you don't see the vintage like the guys do from St. Louis going east. We just don't have those dealers, and those cards just seemingly didn't make it this far out there. So the pre-war stuff that you see is just, you see a lot of commons like T206 commons. You don't see a lot of the big guns, even like the Gaudis and stuff. You'll see, this, if you see the great Hall of Famers, they're normally rough. But even like the golden era cards, it's just the standard Topps and Bowman. You don't see a lot of the Dandies or the Stallmeyers or the Wilson. You just don't see stuff like that. So a smaller show, that McPherson show kind of blew me away. I mean, Babe Ruth autographs, Jordan rookie. I mean, there's stuff out there that I don't, in my hometown, Lawrence, you don't see shows. You don't see cards like that. So
it's a good show, and the guy that puts it on, he's a great friend of mine, and he does a fantastic job putting that on. And like I said, he puts in a lot of work to do that. He's got a card shop in McPherson, and so like I say, he's done a great job in getting people there and keeping people interested in coming. And it seems like we're getting more and more people to stop by it every time. So.
Well, I'm not the most bashful of people. So I was asking people, or not really asking them, I was just walking around that show, and which surprised me, because when I was going out there, I kind of asked you before, like, what's kind of the breakdown, but you never know. Like,
it's hard to say.
I'll drive to an hour to a show, or hour and a half to a show in this area, and I get there, and there may not be a vintage card that's older than like the 70s in the entire show. And so it's just like, spin around and leave really quickly. But a lot of people have said, this is a really good quality little show. And so I didn't know what to expect. I mean, that wasn't why I was going out there. I was going out there to meet you, obviously.
So
the rest of that was just a bonus.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
It was cool. I mean, it was a good little show. You should be proud of it.
Well, I'm glad you got to experience it. I'm glad you came out here. I'm glad you surprised me. I was still shocked that you came and saw me.
I tried to do it with, I had my phone like this because I didn't want to make it too obvious. So it didn't really get you centered in there, but man, it surprised the hell out of you, which was great.
It did. I was not expecting that. That's for sure. So
what's funny is I think you were briefly, you were on the little chat group that we were on that night before.
Yeah.
Because you weren't really participating a lot in that. And I asked if anybody wanted to be on a chat, and you said no, because you're pricing cards for the show. After you basically vacated the chat, I think who was on there? I think Rusty Vintage Cards, Matt Straight Race Cards.
Yeah.
Jay Average Vintage Collector might have been on there.
I think so, yeah.
Might have just been us. I'm like, hey guys, I'm thinking I'm going to surprise Ryan. I'm going to drive out there. They're like, how far? It's like, it's 3 hours. Really? I'm like, yeah, why not? I mean, I got nothing else to do, and that would be awesome. I love meeting these guys. I know how it feels to be where I live at. I can't imagine what it's like for Ryan, because he's even farther out from civilization than I am. So
exactly.
Yeah, it was a blast. And what was great was 3 hours out there and back didn't seem like long. Why? Because of the YouTube community, all the videos that kept me company on the drive out there. That was awesome. I mean, some of them, I always like to save up, like the ones that don't show cards, because you can just listen to them. So, you can drive and not really have to look. I've tried to do that a few times and almost went off the road because someone will show something. Thanks, Joe Redneck Collector. I almost drove off the road showing those 53 tops that he got for like a pack of bacon and a stick of gum on eBay or something, your garden tools, whatever. The magic he works. He's the master.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, the community is everywhere whenever you want it to be. You can just look at your phone, open up your laptop, and you're going to see something that makes you smile. And I'll tell you, you're going to experience this the longer you get into it. It's hard to keep up. It's hard to watch. You start subscribing to a lot of people. People become good friends, and then it's like, man, I don't have enough hours in the day to watch this. So
I've noticed it. I've noticed it already.
Speed, a lot of the guys that talk really slow, you pump it up to 2.0 and man, it flies through. But if you want to laugh, get some guys and slow their video down, and it'll sound like your drunk uncle at a wedding. It's funny. So if you ever want to kill some time, get a couple guys and slow their talk down. It'll make you laugh, especially if you have a language or two. So
for sure. For sure. Well, Mike, we went almost an hour. That was pretty great.
Oh, yeah. Didn't tell everybody how long it took for us to start doing this.
Well, that's true. That's true. It took us a while to get this rolling, but hey, we got it done. So Yeah. So no, I just want to appreciate that you were willing enough to come on and join me. And like I said, it's special that you're my first guest really on here. I kind of wanted you as the first since you came out and surprised me. I was like, yeah, he needs to be the first one. So, but
I'm honored, my friend. This was a blast, and I'm so
yeah.
happy when that you finally started making the videos. It's like we got
Yeah,
enough
it took me a
goals.
while. It took me a while. I was one of those lurkers there for a while, and I didn't even really comment either. I was just kind
I
of
did
like
the same.
sitting back watching, and I was just like, actually, and the story, two guys really got me interested, and that's Matt the Card Story, and then Alex Bowman 53. Those two guys really got me jump started and
Well, that's
said,
awesome.
you know, you got some good stuff. Why don't you get something going? And I just kind of got to the point. I was like, well, we might as well just get it rolling. So we
Okay.
did. So, but no,
Well,
I've been having a blast, and just sharing, talking cards, and stories, and meeting people. And I wish I could go to Strongsville with you guys, but or Independence now, but yeah, you guys will have a blast up there. So
I'm
maybe
excited
next
about
time,
it.
maybe next time I can get away and go. So, but
Well, thanks
well,
for
Mike,
having me.
where
I
can
feel honored for
yeah,
being the
well,
first.
well, Mike, where can people find you?
So I'm on Instagram and on YouTube, Jayhawker Vintage Cards. I try to get a video out maybe once a week or two. I've been doing a lot of collaborations, which was a goal for this year. I've actually done a couple that I've been like the person running it, which is a little bit scary because I'm not the most technology savvy guy out there, but it's
Exactly.
fun. So
Yeah,
yeah, feel free to like. I do a variety of different stuff. I try not to do the same thing every time, but it's
sounds
fun.
good.
I'm having a
Sounds
blast.
good. And I'll put all your info down below when I get this posted on, and everyone check out my vintage baseball cards and Jayhawker Vintage, and you know we this like I said, when we're able to talk cards, it makes everything easy. This conversation, when you're able to just go back and forth, it's pretty easy. So, but I just
Agreed.
like I say, I just appreciate you so much, and I want to thank you for hopping on with me tonight. So,
Oh, very welcome, Ryan. It's been fun.
all right. Well, hopefully, guys, everyone enjoyed this episode number 2 of the Card Bar Hobby Chats. We will look forward to episode number 3, and hopefully, everyone have a great evening. We'll talk to you guys later.